Congressman Tom Price. I represent the 6th District of Georgia in the United States House of Representatives, and I'm honored to chair the House Budget Committee in this, the 114th Congress. And I'm pleased to be joined today by Representative Rob Woodall, who's another fellow Georgian, also serves on the House Budget Committee, also on Transportation and the Rules Committee. So we're here today to talk about the House budget. You may have heard about the budget process that we're going through right now, and you may have even seen a balanced budget for a stronger America. You just need to go to budget.house.gov, budget.house.gov. That's how you see a balanced budget for a stronger America. And it outlines all the solutions that we believe are most appropriate to address the remarkable challenges that we've got. Most of you out there know that we've got a significant amount of debt in this nation. And people say, what difference does it make? We got $18 trillion in debt. Why should that make any difference to me? The fact of the matter is that every dollar that is used in taxes to pay for the interest on the debt, and actually every dollar that is borrowed, is a dollar that's taken away from the American people to spend on the things that they want, whether it's paying the rent, whether it's buying a car, whether it's sending a kid to college or to technical school or buy a house or to expand a business. All the kinds of things that the American people want to do are limited when our government has the level of debt that it does right now. And so we believe there's a wonderful positive solution that helps us address that debt and gets us on a path to real economic vitality in this country. I think we've got a chart that will kind of demonstrate where we are right now. If we can pull up that first chart. I don't know if folks can see that. What we've got on this chart is the gray line there. The gray part of that chart is the amount of debt that this nation has had for the past 40, 50 years. The red line is the amount of debt that's coming under current law, under the president's budget and under current law right now. If nothing has changed, that's where the debt goes. And when the debt gets that high, you see that red line going up. When the debt gets that high, it consumes everything else in our economy and makes it so that people can't realize their dreams. We believe in the greatest amount of opportunity and success for the greatest number of Americans so that American dreams can be realized by every single American. And that amount of debt actually really pinches people and makes it so that they're not able to do the kinds of things that allow them to realize their dreams. So what we propose is the blue line. That's our balanced budget for a stronger America. That's a budget that we have laid out just today, and we will have in our committee tomorrow and hopefully on the floor of the House next week, that will demonstrate how we save $5.5 trillion over the next 10 years, how we do so without raising taxes, how we save and strengthen and secure Medicare and Medicaid, because those programs are going broke. You might have heard about that as well. How we address the tax reform. Tax reform is so important because we need to get people back to work and get this economy rolling again. And part of that, the major portion of that, is to make it so that we've got a tax system that actually rewards the kinds of things we say we want in our society. Hard work and inventiveness and entrepreneurship and saving and all those kinds of things that we say that we want that are now punished under our current tax system. So it's an exciting time to be in the House of Representatives. It's a challenging time, there's no doubt about it. But we believe that the budget that we put forward, a balanced budget for a stronger America, is precisely that, one that gets to balance. You all know that in your own lives and in your businesses and every endeavor in life, you've got to have a budget that balances. If you don't have a budget that balances, then you can't long survive in whatever endeavor that is that you're engaged in. So we believe that the government ought to be no different than you in your personal lives and in your businesses. We believe the government ought to have a budget that balances. We believe we ought not spend more money than we take in. And in order to get to that point, we propose this balanced budget for a stronger America. So we encourage you to go to budget.house.gov, budget.house.gov, pull down our blueprint, and you'll be able to see the link to the text of the legislation itself. And in addition to that, we look forward over the next couple days to publicizing this and having people ask questions and to engage in this process. And with this Google Hangout right here, I'm pleased again to be joined by Representative Rob Woodall from the great state of Texas. And Rob, why don't you open with a few comments, but I'll set it up by a question that came in from Dan Weber, who's the president and founder of the Association of Mature American Citizens. And Dan asks, the Social Security Disability Program is projected to be insolvent by 2016, something that we've talked a lot about in our committee. Does this budget compel Congress to introduce long-term legislative solutions to preserve and protect not just the disability program, but also the old age and survivors insurance program, the standard Social Security program? So, Rob, thanks for joining us, and why don't you take a few minutes and address that question and any other aspect of the budget you'd like.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate all of your leadership. It's fun to go back and talk to high schools in the district, right? Folks who have their entire lives in front of them, and they're trying to balance their checkbook. I tell them about the $3.5 trillion checkbook that you're trying to balance. It's a big job, and I'm grateful to you for what you've done. Dan is asking exactly the right kind of the question. When we always talk about all of these programs that are so important to American citizens, Social Security depended on by folks across this nation. It's the very first tax that most Americans pay. In fact, most American families, Dr. Price, are paying more in Social Security taxes and Medicare taxes than they are in income taxes. That payroll tax is the largest tax that about 80% of American families pay. But I have seen polling results from young people that say more young people believe they're going to see a UFO in their lifetime than see the Social Security check that Dan was talking about. That is outrageous. Budgets are a moral document that talk about our values. And Dan, if you will go, as Dr. Price suggested, to budget.house.gov, you're going to see that pathway that we have laid out to Social Security solvency. Let's talk about disability specifically just for a moment. You no doubt saw one of the first actions this Congress took was to say we're not going to allow shell games in the U.S. House of Representatives where you just move the dollars around and say that you've solved the problem. Social Security disability is too important to those families who hoped to never need it, but find themselves disabled and relying on that assistance. Again, this isn't a benefit we're giving away. This is a benefit that you pay into your entire working life just in case you need that insurance policy, forbid the thought if something were to happen to you and your family. Well, what this budget does in laying out, as Chairman Price mentioned, over $5 trillion in savings, it allows the opportunity to go to those programs on which all Americans agree, Medicare, Social Security disability, to ensure that those programs are solvent not just for a generation but for a lifetime to come. One of the specific items that you will no doubt hear people talking about is the double dipping that goes on in Social Security disability today. We have an unemployment system that folks pay into to say if you become unemployed, we want to give you some insurance that you'll still have income coming in. We also have the disability system that says if, forbid the thought, you become disabled, we want you to have income. But those things are not to be used together. If you're unemployed, then clearly you're not disabled. You're searching for work. You just can't find it. If you're disabled, you are in fact infirm. You're unable to go to search for work. We want a separate program for you. Having those folks double dipping today erodes the solvency of that program. It also erodes the trust that Americans have in that program. What you see in the framework laid out at budget.house.gov is a pathway to take this off the worry list, off your worry list, Dan, and off the worry list of all Americans who've just been working hard, paying their taxes, and want these programs to be available to them when the time comes.
Oh, thanks, Rob, so much. It really, there's so many people that are concerned about these programs that appropriately rely on them. And the sad news that most people have recognized is that the president's budget and our friends on the other side of the aisle, when they lay out a budget, they never address the insolvency of these programs. And as Dan's question alluded to, the Social Security disability program is becoming insolvent in 2016. Social Security itself is scheduled to be insolvent or broke in 2033, Medicare in 2030. Now what is that? That's not Tom Price talking or Rob Woodall talking. That's the trustees of those respective programs saying to the American people and to the representatives in the government and to the president, look, you've got to take care of these things. If we ignore the financial challenges that we have in these programs, then there will come a day, and in Social Security disability area, that day is right around the corner, but there will come a day when we don't have the resources available to provide the services and the benefits to those folks across this country who have counted on them, relied on them, and been promised those benefits. And sadly, our friends on the other side of the aisle, including the president in his budget, doesn't lay out any solution, no solution at all for the challenges in these programs. We had another question come in from Dino in Ohio that is kind of tangentially related to this, and that is, what does our budget say about entitlement reform? And so let me take a few minutes and before I toss another question back to Rob, but let me take a few minutes and talk about the issue of Medicare. Before I came to Congress, I spent over 20 years as a practicing physician, an orthopedic surgeon. I took care of patients on the north side of Atlanta. And what I recognized is that when individuals, patients, were uncertain about whether or not they were going to have the kind of coverage that they needed, the kind of services that they needed for themselves and for their family, an amount of frustration and anger and fear ensued. And so what we've got right now is a Medicare program that, as I mentioned, is scheduled to go broke. It's scheduled to not have the resources available to pay the doctors, to provide the insurance, to provide the coverage for medications, to provide the coverage for surgical procedures and examinations and tests for our seniors in a relatively short period of time. And again, our friends on the other side of the aisle, the president simply said, that's okay, don't worry about that. Don't pay any attention to that man behind the curtain. When we believe strongly that it is our responsibility, as Rob mentioned, it's our moral responsibility to recognize the challenge before us, but also to lay out a path of a solution, a positive solution. And that's precisely what we do in our budget. What we propose is something that will not only save money for seniors, but save money for the federal government as well. And we do so in a way that increases the flexibility and increases the choices for seniors, all the while guaranteeing that they will have access to either traditional Medicare or a program that provides greater choices and options for them. The premium support model that we've laid out there is actually the solution to solve the fiscal challenge that Medicare has. And you'll hear a lot of folks out there talking on the other side who will say that this destroys Medicare, that it won't provide the services to seniors. That's simply not true, and I urge you not to allow the demagoguery of those kinds of debates to get in the way of what are real solutions. The fact of the matter is, current policy destroys Medicare as we know it, and that's the policy that apparently the president and his party have embraced, because they haven't laid out any solutions to solve that challenge other than to take more money out of the program. So again, budget.house.gov is how you take a peek at the specific solutions that we have for Medicare and Medicaid and the issue of Social Security, as Representative Woodall mentioned. If you've got a question that you'd like to send to us, you can send me a tweet at @RepTomPrice, right on the bottom of your screen there, and send us a tweet. We'd love to be able to address your question. I'll tee up another one for Congressman Woodall right now. Congressman Woodall has been a champion of appropriate tax reform and the kinds of importance of tax reform for our society. Our tax system right now is so confounding and duplicative and redundant, and as many of you know, you've heard the stories. If you call up the IRS, if you can get anybody on the phone, but if you call them up and ask them a question, the likelihood that asking two individuals within the IRS the same question and getting the same answer, that is the same direction or instruction from the IRS, is less than 50-50. The fact of the matter is that it's more likely that you'll get a different answer, which means that nobody can follow the kind of tax code that we have right now. We believe in a much simpler system. And Rob, I wonder if you might expand, please, on the wonder and the excitement of tax reform and how that relates to people's lives and the opportunity for them to realize their dreams.
Tom, you think about how the power to tax is really the power to destroy. I always think about what would happen. You know, we have this big Georgia Tech football rivalry in the great state of Georgia. If we began to subsidize red and black clothing and tax yellow and black clothing, we'd turn the entire state of Georgia into a bulldog nation. Taxation is not supposed to be about picking winners and losers. It's supposed to be about bringing in that essential revenue. What does it say when 80% of American families are paying more in payroll taxes to fund Social Security and Medicare than they are in income taxes to fund all the rest of the government? And yet, as you said, Dr. Price, the trustees tell us that all three of those programs are going bankrupt. The programs that when you start working at age 15, 16, you see it, that FICA line in your taxes, it comes out right off the top before you get anything else. And Americans can't trust that those programs will be there because the trustees say they're going bankrupt. What I hear from folks back home is that they're tired of people talking about tax reform. They want to get to tax reform. I credit the president in every State of the Union speech he's made since I was elected to Congress 4 years ago. He has mentioned how the corporate income tax code is destroying jobs in America. He's talked about how with an opportunity to reform the tax code, we could make America a magnet for jobs instead of taking jobs and moving those out of the country. But it's all just been talk. You serve on the Ways and Means Committee, Chairman Price. You all have an opportunity. In fact, over the last 2 years, you've done more to further the cause of tax reform than I've seen done in my lifetime. The time for results is now, and this budget lays that out. Who out there is going to raise their hand and say, we need more jobs and economic activity in this country, so let's pollute the air more? Nobody wants that. Who says it's gotten too expensive to create a job in America, so let's pollute the water and try to save some money? Nobody says that. Who says it's very difficult to create jobs in America today, and so let's lower wages down to $1 an hour? Nobody says that. We don't want to do any of those things that destroy the fabric of the country, but the tax code is nothing but dead weight in its inefficiencies. As you laid out, Dr. Price, I'm getting ready to do my taxes. I still do them myself, and I'm convinced I do them wrong every single year. I pay extra every year just because I want there to be no question about me trying to take advantage of the system, but it is too complicated for Americans to figure out. It makes a criminal out of all of us. This framework that you have put forward, that the Budget Committee will have in committee tomorrow, and if you're really interested in getting into the details, I know we can't do all the details in a hangout like this, but tune in to budget.house.gov tomorrow. You will see what will be a dozen hours of Budget Committee conversation getting into all of these details, and you're able to participate right there online. This is the biggest opportunity to grow the American economy, to put young college graduates to work, to put all Americans back to work that we've had in our lifetime. I hope folks are as excited about this document as I am.
Take a peek at the document, budget.house.gov. Our conversation has prompted a question about a balanced budget amendment. Would a balanced budget amendment help move this process along? Comes from Dave King. You're absolutely right. We have tried in the past in the House to pass a balanced budget amendment. The good news about this budget that we're proposing this year is that we provide for the House to take another vote on a balanced budget amendment. I'm enthusiastic about supporting a balanced budget amendment. I think it's so important that the American people know who in Congress, who their representatives are that are supporting a balanced budget and who's not. And we need to do that so that the people know who's standing up for the vast majority of the American people who believe, again, that a balanced budget amendment is an important thing. But our balanced budget for a stronger America gets us to balance even without a balanced budget amendment, and it does so in a way that secures the future for this generation and coming generations, again, to be able to realize their excitement and opportunity and dreams that they may have. Let me just run through the top lines of the budget itself, and Rob, if you want to think about a few closing words, and then we'll encourage folks to continue that conversation at Rep. Tom Price. At Rep. Tom Price is how you get questions, and we'll follow up with some of those that are asked later on. Again, our budget addresses the needs of the American people in a positive way, in a way that solves the challenges that we have. And we've talked about the amount of debt that's crushing our economy. The evidence of that is our growth rate. Right now, the Congressional Budget Office estimates that we will grow over the next 10 years at about 2.3%. 2.3%. The average growth for the United States for the last 40 years has been 3.3%. And you say, well, what difference does 1% make? Well, if you think about it, 1% added on to 2.3% is nearly 50% increase in the vitality and the responsiveness and the enthusiasm and the productivity of our nation. And in addition to that, what it does is it creates more jobs for more people. And when we get that kind of growth and opportunity for folks, what happens is that you actually get increased revenue to the federal government, to the tune of about almost $300 billion for every 0.1%. We're getting in the weeds here a little bit, but a 1% increase results in nearly $3 trillion of new revenue to the federal government. That's the kind of money that can be utilized in a responsible way, in a positive way, to address these challenges that we have. So in addition to reforming the Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security so that they don't consume all of the resources coming into the federal government, growing the economy is exactly what needs to happen. I think we've got another slide that has the revenue line. It's the red line. There it is right there. This is a slide that demonstrates Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security and interest on the debt. The dark blue at the top, or it may appear black on your screen at the top, is the amount of interest that we're currently paying on the debt. And that amount right now in 2015 is about $230 billion in that range. But the projection, as you see on that slide, is that it will go to nearly $1 trillion, a little under $900 billion within 10 years. When that happens, you see that it becomes greater than the amount of money we're spending on defense, becomes greater than the amount of money we're spending on all sorts of other things that are so vital. Just interest on the debt. You know what the interest that you pay on your credit card or on your mortgage or on your car loan. When that amount gets greater than the actual principal, the actual amount that you're paying for the service or the product that you want, you know we're in trouble. Now that red line there is the revenue line. That's the amount of money coming into the federal government through taxes, whether it's income taxes or corporate taxes or other fees and the like that are paid. And you see the point at which that red line crosses that dark blue or that black area. That's when there's nothing in the federal government to pay for anything except for Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security and interest on the debt. That's a point where our economy gets into what's called a fiscal crisis, where we're not able to do the kinds of things that we necessarily must do in our economy, the kinds of things in education, the kinds of things in the judiciary, the kinds of things in defense. We haven't even talked about defense, but the kinds of things in energy. All the things that you think about when you think about the federal government, with the exception of Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, will all be crowded out, will be crushed by the oppressive nature of the interest on the debt if we continue to have the kind of deficit and debt and deficit spending that we're having right now, and that is the president's plan. That's why we believe it's so important, so vitally important, to move forward with a balanced budget for a stronger America. Again, budget.house.gov is how you take a peek at this, and we look forward to having this conversation all across this land as we demonstrate the kind of positive solutions that we have for the challenges that face us. Rob, any closing words?
Tom, if they could just bring up the chart about the president's deficits and let me close on that. I get so frustrated back home when people believe this is just quibbling in Washington, D.C., instead of talking about the serious issues that really unite us. There's more that unites this country than that divides us, and you are trying to unite us in this budget document before us today. But I want you to look at that chart that's on the screen now. The red line represents the budget that Chairman Price and the Budget Committee have put forward, the budget that makes tough decisions, but makes those decisions in a compassionate and rational way.
We need the slide that was back up there. There you go.
That gray line represents the president's deficits. The president raises taxes in ways that we don't choose to do, but he still doesn't pay for today's spending. We can argue about how to prioritize spending, but every American family knows you cannot run deficits for a lifetime without your family paying a terrible price for it. The president is running up deficits with a budget that never, ever, ever balances. Dr. Price, you have had to do a lot of talking. You've had to do a lot of hand-holding, a lot of even cajoling to help get this entire Congress on the same page to do those things that matter. But balancing this budget will make for a better America. Every family knows we can't continue to do things with the deficits growing higher and higher and higher and expect tomorrow to have the kind of opportunity that we all want for our children and grandchildren. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate you letting me be with you today.
Thanks so much, Rob, and thanks for your good work on our committee and elsewhere in the Congress. I tell you, folks, I couldn't be more proud of the work that the Budget Committee and the House of Representatives has done to produce this balanced budget for a stronger America. As I mentioned, the timeline is we're going to be in our committee tomorrow, and we'll have what's called a markup, which is where we adopt this piece of legislation within our committee and hopefully on the House floor next week. We need you to communicate with folks that represent you in the House of Representatives. We need their support for this balanced budget for a stronger America. If we can answer any other questions, please don't hesitate to contact us at Rep. Tom Price. At Rep. Tom Price is how you reach us. And please go to budget.house.gov. budget.house.gov and view a balanced budget for a stronger America, a budget that gets us on the path to not just balancing the budget, but reinvigorating the vitality of this great nation. It's a great honor to serve you and have this opportunity. We wish you the very best on this St. Patrick's Day. God bless you.